If you're trying to reverse insulin resistance, the first instinct that most people have is what to remove. Cut carbs, cut sugar, cut snacks, cut calories. And yes, these things matter. But there's another side to the equation that almost no one talks about. What to add. Because there are certain foods that make your metabolism more stable, that lower your insulin, support fat burning, and make the entire process easier. And in today's video, I'm going to show you 4 foods that I recommend eating every single day if you want to reverse insulin resistance faster. Not supplements, not complicated protocols, just real food that's been scientifically proven to give you real results. And stay with me because at the end of this video, we're going to be going over the worst foods you can eat for insulin resistance. Some of them are obvious, refined sugars, processed junk food, but a few of them might surprise you. Foods that are often marketed as healthy, but actually spike blood sugar and secretly keep your insulin high. Today's video is episode 4 of my insulin resistance playbook series. And if you've been following along, you will know that this topic ties in perfectly with what we've been discussing. Episode 1 explained why insulin resistance blocks fat loss. Episode 2 showed you why protein-first meals are key. Episode 3 covered intermittent fasting and whether it's necessary. And today we're talking about a handful of foods that make this whole process easier. So let's start with the first one. If I had to choose one nutrient that most people with insulin resistance aren't getting enough of, it would be omega-3 fatty acids, and in the right form. Omega-3s directly influence inflammation, and inflammation is one of the main drivers of insulin resistance. When inflammation is high, cells become less responsive to insulin, which means the pancreas produces more insulin to compensate. That is the cycle we're trying to break. Omega-3 fats help to calm that inflammatory environment. But they also do something else that's interesting and particularly beneficial when it comes to insulin resistance. They improve cell membrane fluidity. Think of your cells like doors. Insulin is the key that unlocks those doors so glucose can enter. If the door is stiff and inflamed, insulin has to knock harder. Omega-3 fats make that membrane more flexible, making it easier for insulin to do its job. And this means that the body needs less insulin overall. So the best food sources here are small oily fish. Sardines, mackerel, anchovies, herring, and salmon. Sardines are especially powerful because they are small fish low on the food chain, meaning they tend to have lower mercury levels and higher nutrient density. And they are extremely rich in EPA and DHA, the 2 omega-3 fatty acids that we're looking for. And if you've watched my recent video on sardines specifically, you'll know that they are so much more than just omega-3 fatty acids. They contain marine collagen, vitamin B12, calcium, vitamin D3. They are so high in nutrients, it is crazy. So if you can incorporate one of these fish at least once a day, you're going to see massive improvements to your health and in particular your insulin sensitivity. Now if you can't have them every day, then try to have them at least 3 times a week. And if you really aren't a fan of the taste of sardines or any of these fish really, I would suggest not just reaching for an omega-3 supplement. Sardine capsules are a better alternative because you get the full nutritional profile. I'll put the link to those and also sardine brands that I recommend in the description box down below. One of the biggest myths in nutrition that I think we're getting closer to breaking is that fat makes you fat, that fat is bad. In reality, the right types of fat can actually stabilize your blood sugar and enhance fat burning. And this is especially important for people who are dealing with insulin resistance. When insulin is chronically high, the body struggles to access stored fat for energy. But certain fats can help your metabolism transition back into that fat burning state. One of the most interesting examples is MCTs, which is short for medium chain triglycerides. Unlike most dietary fats, MCTs go directly to the liver, where they can be rapidly converted into ketones. Ketones are a fuel source your body uses when insulin is low and fat burning is active. So including MCT oil into your routine, which is a type of oil that isolates this fat, can help to bridge the gap between glucose metabolism and fat metabolism. Another example of a type of fat that enhances fat burning is stearic acid, and this is rich in cacao butter and suet. These traditional fats are stable, minimally processed, and provide energy without causing large insulin spikes. Fat itself doesn't trigger a lot of insulin. It actually requires next to no insulin to process. So when you combine healthy fats like this with a high quality source of protein, you create meals that keep your blood sugar stable for hours and help to improve insulin sensitivity and fat burning. Now, the next group of foods we're talking about might be one of the most overlooked. If insulin resistance is partly an inflammation issue, then the gut plays a huge part. Your gut microbiome influences inflammation, metabolism, nutrient absorption, and even hormone signaling. And one of the fastest ways to improve your gut diversity is through fermented foods. These contain beneficial bacteria that supports microbial balance. Some examples include sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, yogurt, and pickled vegetables. These foods introduce probiotics and support the production of short-chain fatty acids, compounds that help regulate inflammation and metabolic health. Research has shown that gut health is strongly linked to insulin sensitivity. In other words, improving your gut environment helps to improve how your body responds to glucose. You don't need huge quantities. Eat a few spoonfuls of fermented vegetables with meals, and this can make a big difference. But now I want to get to maybe the most important food group in this whole conversation. And if you've watched episode 2 of this series, you probably know what it is. Protein is the foundation for metabolic health. It increases satiety. It stabilizes our blood sugar. It increases GLP-1, which is the hormone that helps to keep us full. And it has the highest thermic effect of any other macronutrient, meaning it takes more calories to digest it. But not all protein sources are equal. Animal protein is more bioavailable. It contains all the essential amino acids in the right ratios for muscle maintenance and metabolic function. And unlike many plant protein sources, it does not come packaged with a large amount of carbohydrates. That matters when insulin resistance is part of the picture. Foods like eggs, steak, chicken, lamb, fish, and dairy provide complete protein with minimal glucose impact. So you really need to make sure you're getting a high quality source of ideally animal protein every single day. I can't tell you how many clients have come to me who are eating a mainly plant-based or vegan diet and really struggling. Their blood sugar is all over the place, they're hungry all of the time, and when we start reintroducing animal protein daily, the results are night and day. Now, one of the easiest ways to increase your protein intake and make sure you're getting it from good quality sources is with butchercrowd. Butchercrowd connects you directly with Australian farmers and delivers grass-fed, pasture-raised meat straight to your door. So instead of relying on supermarket meat of unknown sourcing, you know exactly where your food comes from. Their boxes include things like grass-fed beef, free-range chicken, grass-fed lamb, and wild-caught seafood, which makes it incredibly easy to build meals around high-quality protein, the foundation of improving insulin sensitivity. If you've been trying to hit the protein targets that we talked about in episode 2, having quality meat ready in your freezer makes things so much easier. It makes it easier to stay consistent. And did I also mention that they have wild-caught salmon, which was food number 2 that we spoke about today? Wild-caught salmon is so hard to find in Australia. And I love that butchercrowd gives us access to it. If you want to check them out, there's no better time to sign up than right now. You can save 15% off your first box, and you're also going to get a free butcher knife. So again, that link's going to be in the description box down below. They ship Australia-wide, and you can pause, change, or cancel your subscription at any time. Now, let's talk about the other side of the equation. Because even if you add these 4 powerful food groups into your diet, certain foods can still make insulin resistance harder to reverse. And some of these surprise people. So let's start with the obvious ones. Ultra-processed foods and refined sugar. These create rapid blood sugar spikes and force your pancreas to produce large amounts of insulin. Over time, that constant insulin demand leads to insulin resistance. Or if you've already started to develop insulin resistance, it progresses it. But most people watching this video already know that. The more interesting examples here are ones that are marketed as healthy. Take oatmeal, for example. And a lot of people don't want to hear this. Oatmeal is often promoted as a heart-healthy breakfast, but in many ways it produces a rapid blood sugar spike, especially when eaten on its own without fat or protein. Just remember what we discussed in episode 2. When we eat carbohydrates alone, they enter the bloodstream rapidly. But when you eat protein first, or with the carbs, the blood sugar and insulin response is more gradual. This is what we want. Fruit juice is another example. Fruit itself contains fiber that slows sugar absorption. Juice removes that fiber and concentrates the sugar. You end up drinking the equivalent of multiple pieces of fruit in just one glass, which leads to a rapid glucose spike and insulin surge. And then there are these processed health foods. A lot of them are marketed now as high in protein. Think of protein bars, protein popcorn, low-fat snacks. Many of these contain refined starches and seed oils that create metabolic instability. They look healthy based on the label, but the body responds to them in a not so healthy way. The pattern here is simple. Foods that spike blood sugar require a lot of insulin to process. Foods that keep your blood sugar stable require less. And when you're trying to reverse insulin resistance, that difference matters. So let's bring it all together. Let's do a quick recap. If you want to improve insulin sensitivity faster, focus on these 4 daily food groups. Omega-3 rich fish to calm inflammation and support cell membrane health. Superfood fats like MCT oil or cacao butter to support fat metabolism and stable energy. Fermented foods to improve gut health and reduce inflammation. And high-quality animal protein to stabilize blood sugar, increase satiety, and support muscle. At the same time, you need to reduce the foods that cause blood sugar spikes. Processed sugar, ultra-refined foods, liquid sugars like fruit juice, and many processed health snacks. Remember that this is not about perfection. It's about making good decisions as often as you can, because there's always going to be better and worse choices you can make. All foods fall on a spectrum. We want to be building habits that we can maintain long term, and that doesn't mean being perfect. And that's the core idea behind my insulin resistance playbook. Small changes consistently applied, that's what's going to move the needle the most. If you haven't watched the rest of the series yet, I highly recommend starting with episode 1. That's the one where we explain why insulin resistance blocks fat loss, why it is so hard to lose weight, even if you're calorie counting, even if you're in a calorie deficit, if you're insulin resistant. Because once you understand the mechanism, everything else makes sense. And the next episode, which will be out next Tuesday, hopefully, that's going to be the final episode in this series. In that one, I'm going to be answering some frequently asked questions. How to eat out when you're insulin resistant? How long does it take to reverse insulin resistance? Can you actually reverse it, or are you just putting it into remission? And if you have any other questions you want answered in that video, leave them in the comments down below. And finally, before you go, remember to check out ButcherCrowd if you're in Australia and looking for high quality meat and seafood.